Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? It's Danny, Shane, and Marcus tonight with the GnG Elite Dragon Ball Super podcast. Tonight we're joined by a special guest, Joey, and we're going to be discussing some pretty cool topics. So today we're going to be discussing suspect action in larger events and high-level play, taking life in a certain order, and if it's actually impactful, cheating, or if it matters at all, really. A certain topic that I know came up in the Pokemon worlds, which was declumping, and just overall very powerful cards right now that we see in the format, and if we think they deserve bans. So we'll get it started by letting Joey introduce himself.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me on. My name is Joey. I'm the guy that runs Crossworld TCG, the YouTube channel, and the Patreon, and I'm also a proud teammate of Senron's Lair.
And thanks for coming out, Joey. We definitely appreciate it, man, and taking some time out of your day to swing by our small little channel and give us some of your cool ideas. I know I watch your channel a lot, probably more than is a little healthy, but that's all right.
I really appreciate that, man. Thank you guys for having me on.
Can confirm I also sub to the Patreon.
Appreciate you. Hopefully it's helpful.
Oh, for sure. I think between your Patreon and 3XG's Patreon, I think those are probably, man, I'm gonna get flagged for this, but probably the two best you can get content from. So,
especially when it comes to consistency.
Yeah, for sure. So let's just jump right into this. Suspect actions in larger events and just high-level play in general. Marcus, what are some of your thoughts on this, or what are some things that you look out for when you're in a high-level event and you think something might come up that's suspect?
So there's a couple of things that you typically see with, like that you can consider suspect action, specifically in high-level play, and we have a couple of those on the table already when it comes to declumping or taking life in a quote-unquote random order. But one thing that I always look out for is like someone that seems to take an unreasonably long time to make relatively simple plays. Like it's commonly referred to as slow play, but like it could really reasonably just be somebody that's taking their time to thoroughly plan out all of their plays, which is totally reasonable in a competitive environment, especially when there's a lot on the line. But at the same time, it's easily abusable and hard to judge intent or ill intent.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things is like it's innocent until proven guilty, right? And like me, like one of my things when I'm at regionals and stuff, like I never get draws, I never get into time. Like if you look at my tournament reports on the channel and stuff, like when I go over the report, I never have a draw. I play like relatively fast, I guess. But like one of my closest friends in this game, Danny Wynn, a lot of you guys probably know who he is. He is potentially the slowest player in this entire game, and playing with him just like really grinds my gears just because it takes so long. But he has the results to back it up. So I mean, sometimes you do need to plan it out. Sometimes it can borderline be slow playing. And I think there's like people that you can tell kind of do it maliciously, and some people just like don't quite know what they're doing. Like if someone's new with the deck, things like that. But yeah, it's hard to draw the line between like malicious and just trying to figure things out.
And like nobody ever wants to be that guy that goes and calls a judge and asks the judge to watch for slow play and stuff like that,
Yeah, you don't even want to be that guy. Like one of my judge friends said to me one time, he was like, just call a judge over and don't even say it in the accusatory way to your opponent. Just be like, Judge, I want you to watch this game for slow play. But like everyone knows you're insinuating your opponent's slow playing. But
right. It's just
I've heard so many stories of people just like not calling judges on things they should have called them for, and it's unfortunate there's like a stigma around it.
Right. I definitely agree with that.
How dare you be mean to your opponent by making them play in a proper pace?
Yeah, right.
In that instance, I usually tell my opponent that I think they're going a little bit slower than normal. And if they keep on doing it, that's when I call the judge. And I usually tell my opponent that I'm going to call the judge. Like, hey, man, you've been playing really slow the past 20 minutes. Like, we have 5 minutes left in the game, and we're still on your turn 2 of game 1. Like, let's kick it up a notch. As well as it's also like the only thing in the game that tilts me off the daggum planet. Somebody starts slow playing, and it drives me insane.
Like my game 1 mirror in Ohio was skillless 45 minutes for game 1.
That's a yikes.
Like, and that's
I try and take.
But
he kept crusher balling my self awakeners and then would not swing his self awakener, so we just sat there diddling for nothing.
man. Luckily, I've never had a tie in an event though from solo play. I've gotten really close, but I've never gotten an actual draw. Thank
Yeah,
Lord.
you definitely want to avoid it because then if you get that draw like round 1, round 2, it just puts you in the bracket with all the other people who play really slow.
And it's equivalent to a loss nearly when you get one that early in the rounds. Because
Yeah,
it's
you
just
just get
like
put in
not
a
very
rough
good
bracket.
tiebreakers.
Yeah, thankfully I too have like one draw out of like 7 or 8 events.
I have a few, but like,
Slow player.
look, man, I don't try to.
Marcus, sometimes you do play a little slow, but like we've talked about it before. Marcus, you'll look at your hand for a solid 30 seconds, and then you'll do the rest of your turn in 3 seconds, and it's crazy.
Like I said, I don't try to play slow. I overthink things sometimes.
Yeah, I think there's like a time limit, Mark. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's like what, like 20 seconds or something like that before you make a play, and that's like where the slow play gets called. Is that accurate?
I think it's actually 30 seconds.
30 seconds, right? Something like that. Yeah.
I don't know if Dragon Ball actually has one, but I know like Pokemon and all like those games have one where it's like you have 15 or 20 seconds to make a move that progresses game state, or it's considered slow play. And any move that does not progress game state does not.
And you'll recognize the people that are very aware and used to this rule in the way they pace their turns, where every action seems to have the same amount of time between it.
Yeah, my turns are usually pretty quick. I'm normally always the one that's waiting for my opponent to finish, just because I feel like if I take too long, I'm gonna overthink and screw something up. So I just try and make the simple, stupid play.
One thing I typically do when I'm playing against somebody that seems to be playing too slow is I'll just keep mentioning how much time we have on the clock. Like I'll be like, yeah, we got 30 minutes left. It's still game 1.
I just win game 1 and take the 1-0.
Shane,
Sometimes you gotta do it like that.
Yeah. So other than slow playing, what are some other things that you guys might see that might make you think that your opponent is in some way cheating or intentionally trying to do something a little bit malicious?
One thing I try and look out for is like my opponent looking at the bottom of my deck when they shuffle. I've had this happen a few times where I look at them do it, and then like I look them straight in the eyes, and then they look me in the eyes, and they're like, "Oh crap!" and then they look away from my deck. But sometimes there's like people who can't shuffle a deck without looking at it, and I can understand that if you're just like completely uncoordinated, but like at least like put it so that my sleeves are facing your eyes and not the bottom of my deck, and like sometimes like one of my teammates at one event, I know he said to his opponent, like his opponent shuffled his deck, gave it to him, and my teammate gave his deck back to his opponent and said, "Okay, shuffle my deck without looking at the bottom," and then he did it again, and they did this back and forth like 3 times. So sometimes you gotta be like, you gotta enforce like it's a thing about respecting you as a player, and it's also like the integrity of the game. So I mean, back to the whole thing about being afraid to call a judge and like that kind of thing. Like, don't be so afraid to do it. Like, especially if you feel like your opponent's kind of scumming you. Just you gotta keep the integrity of the game.
Shit, I've called a judge over stupid stuff before just because I don't know how the game's played.
Shane doesn't like to get bullied, so he has a tendency to out-bully the bully.
I think something that I look out for is, and I come from Yu-Gi-Oh, so maybe it's just because I'm used to the Yu-Gi-Oh crowd. I'll put it that way. And I don't like sitting on the aisle where it's like the bigger aisle where there's a lot of traffic, where that traffic can see my hand, because I always I remember at a YCS once. I remember at a YCS once. My opponent literally had a friend like 10 feet behind me and was like motioning to what I had in my hand at like round 1.
Well, you know where you went wrong there?
If you say playing Yu-Gi-Oh, I'm coming to Pensacola.
Playing Yu-Gi-Oh.
So, like, that's one of those things I can definitely see what you're talking about there. And there is an easy way to help kind of, like, not necessarily remedy the situation, because obviously when you go to look at your hand, you have to pick it up and open your hand up to kind of, like, understand what you have going on. But, like, just set your hand down on the table.
I just don't sit on that aisle.
I know, but like that's not always an option. Sometimes you sit on the very last table, on the end of the table.
Yeah.
I just naturally try not to fan my hand.
I also just like looking at the clock. So
right, like
that sounds like someone manipulating time.
No, I just like looking at the clock because if it helps me talk, like sometimes I'm really bad with time. And so I might think they're slow playing when in reality they've only taken 10 seconds and I'm just bored. So
I look at the clock so I don't slow play, because I'm bad about like losing track of time when deciding what line of play I'm gonna make. So I try to like keep track of it so I know if I'm taking too long myself as a way to remind myself to speed up.
yeah.
I just kind of think I have a decent pace of play.
Shane, is there anything specific that you might look for in an
Oh,
opponent?
let's get this list started. 'Cause there's a lot of them.
I'm gonna go walk my dog while you do this.
All right, so coming from Pokemon, anyone who's played Pokemon in the last 2 years knows they've had quite a few cheating scandals for a while now. Like, it's been pretty bad. Like, let's see. If you declump, I'm immediately watching you. Because declump, cut stacking, all that stuff's happened even just this past weekend at Pokemon Worlds. The guy who got second is literally caught declump, cut stacking his deck on stream. So I'm going to watch you on those.
What do you mean by that?
So they declump, and they're shifting a card to a certain spot in the deck. So when they shuffle, they manipulate it right towards the middle, so that there's a good chance that when you cut, it'll end up in like the top 4 or 5 cards or so. The way when they play something that draws cards, they'll get it.
Or especially in Pokemon when your opening hand is 7 cards.
I declump, but I don't like put it in any order, and I just shuffle a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
And
declumping
then-
is pretty reasonable if you just shuffle a lot afterwards. Like, obviously, it's one of those things that it can seem sketchy for sure, so you got to understand what you're doing when you do that at a high level. And technically, if you shuffle thoroughly afterwards, then your declumping didn't matter, but it makes you feel better. It's like a placebo effect.
I definitely agree.
Let's see, what else is there?
Joey, you agree with
Yeah, I agree with the declumping thing because, like, okay, so I also came from Yu-Gi-Oh, kind of bittersweetly, but yeah, that was just something we always did, and there was never a rule about it. I think Yu-Gi-Oh gets a lot less stream coverage though, so maybe people will call it out a bit less, but it's just something I've always done since I played that game because it was never like a problem or was never a rule. And then I came to Yu-Gi-Oh, I came to Dragon Ball, and at my first regional in San Jose, I was on stream in like round 4 or something, and I was declumping my deck, and like my friends were telling me like, oh, the stream was like saying you were stacking and stuff. I was like, what? Because I was declumping my deck, and I was like, well, this is like brand new to me. I was like, I did not know this was like a problem. So I am a fan of declumping just because like I hate when like my cards stick together. I don't want to brick and draw like, you know, card after card after card being the same thing. But I agree, like you obviously have to shuffle very thoroughly. Like I've looked into like the math of it, and like after 7 riffle shuffles, that's like that's when your deck is supposedly perfectly randomized. So like, I mean, you could enforce a rule like that, like, you know, 7 riffle shuffles before you present your deck to your opponent, but that would kind of probably be like too meticulous. So, but that's like a good rule of thumb for anyone who's looking to like make sure the deck is completely randomized, whether you're shuffling your own deck or your opponent's deck. Like 7 to 10 riffle shuffles, that'll do it pretty well.
Right, and like obviously not every person. I mean, it's even fair to say almost a just small fraction of the amount of people who are declumping are cheating. However,
Right.
the vast majority of cheaters are declumping, so you have to be careful.
Yeah, definitely. That's another thing you have to realize too, is that like a very small pool of the players are cheaters. Like it's a very small fraction, but you know, when it gets caught, it's a great thing when it gets caught, but obviously it gets a lot of attention around it.
Yeah, Twitch is also Twitch chat is also really reactive. I know when I made my thing, I wasn't even on stream in Dallas when I made my misplay against Eggman and the judge ruled
You
it a
brought
certain
it
way.
up, not me.
Well, that's fine, but what I'm saying is like Twitch chat, somebody literally PM'd me and told me to go jump off a bridge and die because I got a ruling wrong.
They literally said that to you?
Yeah, I got a PM from like some random account, and then that account from Facebook got deleted. I was like, what? I wasn't even on stream. And it happened like 3 weeks after the event. I was like, what? What?
Eggman,
That's so awful, dude.
What'd you say, Shane?
Eggman put a hit out on you. That's
Yeah.
What did you have after that, though, Shane?
Take your life out of order. I'm immediately watching you for mark cards. I mean, like most people are going to do it and they're not cheating. However, still going to watch.
But that's the thing though, that like almost 100% of players don't do, at least from my experience. Like people set up their lives either like 4x4 or 2x4. What is it? 4x2 or 2x.
Right.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So people either set their life up like that and they take it in like a very methodical way. And yeah, like taking your life out of order, it's just something that is so unnecessary and it just like causes suspicion. So I don't see any reason to do that.
Yeah, like math-wise, like if you take all feelings and illogical factors out of play, mathematically it doesn't make a difference. So if it's just
Right.
because it makes you feel better, then understand it's not cheating, but you're putting suspect on yourself by taking life out of order. And there is a chance that under random circumstance, something is found wrong with a sleeve that you just happen to take randomly, and it's taken for a marked card. You could have a clipped corner, you could have a smudge or a smear, and that could be enough.
Yep. There's like the argument too going around like, oh, there's that one card you'll never see, and like that's going to be the case no matter what order you take your life in. There's going to be one card, and I understand what they're saying, like that one card in the top left corner of your life if you do like 2x4 or whatever. And I can understand if you're like on stream and like you've never taken life out of order before, and like you're in a crucial point in the game, you need that luck sack off your life, and like you take a random life that one time and it like happens to be clutch. I can understand that. But like if you're doing it constantly, that's way too suspicious for me.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, how do you guys feel about calling judge if you see a sleeve that's damaged? I know I've done it at one event now. I did it in Orlando. Someone's sleeve just like looked like it had a fingernail imprint on it. And the judge just made him change it, and it ended up being like some crappy card anyways. It wasn't like the big boss monster of his deck. But like, do you guys ever notice that and just think not to call judge, or how do you feel about it?
So I think majority of the time, people that have damaged sleeves are just irresponsible. They just don't take care of their stuff, or they use the same sleeves for too long, thinking it'll be okay.
Or they bought Ultra Pro.
and they shuffled them 3 times. So like, I don't think the majority of people have ill intentions when it comes to it, but this is actually the exact way marked cards have been found numerous times in high-level competitive play among all different games, where there's corners that are dinged or the sleeves with fingernail indents on them. There was a situation I don't remember which game it was. I think it was Magic, where a player was marking other people's sleeves and getting them DQ'd.
That sounds like
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Because he was just rough with the sleeves when checking their graveyard.
Yeah, the fingernail thing is huge, and like I haven't had that come up personally, but if one sleeve is just like, if it's just like, I don't know, if it's got like a ketchup stain on it or something, like if it's so indistinguishable, like if it's so crazily like distinguishable from the rest of the deck, like yeah, I would call a judge on it, because even if they're not doing it intentionally, like that's just then I could tell what card it is in the deck, and that's just not cool.
Joe,
Alright,
are
y'all
you
heard
using your sleeves as a ketchup fork?
All right, y'all heard it here first. If it's honey mustard, he won't check, but if it's ketchup, that's when
Specifically ketchup.
Yeah.
If it's mayo, you'll be all right, but if it's ketchup, that's not cool.
Fun fact: I almost got in trouble for marked cards at Ohio.
Why am I not surprised?
Because I bought Ultra Pro and they're garbage.
I always try to keep 10 to 15 extra sleeves in my deck box empty, just in case the sleeve breaks or I ding the corner of one, or you drop a card by accident out of your hand and you go to catch it, but you smush it so you bend the sleeve in half, stuff like that.
Yeah, I do the same thing.
That's some pretty tilting stuff that happens to me. Like if in Yu-Gi-Oh, it used to be this way where a certain rarity, like especially effect veilers and that. God, I forgot what the rarity's called. It's been so long. Yes. So like ultimate rare effect veilers were like the flimsiest thing in the world. Like I've seen toilet paper that's better than those effect veilers.
Agreed.
Like I remember one time my opponent was reading my effect veiler and just like didn't really think what he was doing. Oh God, I hope he wasn't. And like bent the card in half. I was like,
like literally you could breathe on them and they'd fold in half.
Yep.
But Joe, you probably know that coming from Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, dude. I had a set of ulti veilers until recently. Now they're like $200 a piece. But yeah, they're so flimsy. It's pretty frustrating.
Man. Shane, did you have anything else? It sounded like you had more to talk about.
The only thing I want to point out is I wasn't marking cards before somebody listens to this and pulls this shit out of context.
Oh man. So is there anything else?
I like the judge called me over. He was like, "Do you see anything wrong with these sleeves?" And I was like, "All right, do you want me to replace them, or am I getting some sort of infraction? Because I just want to cut straight to the point. Like, I don't want to beat around the bush about it." So then he's like, "Yeah, but why would you mark a single training buddy Krillin and a single 30K?" I'm like, "Okay, cool, we're good."
Yeah, I had the same issue at the Virginia Regional a few months ago. Like, one of the judges called me over for a deck check in top 16, and there was one sleeve that you can kind of just like tell from the side of the deck, but it was like a crap card, and I had like just like Marcus said, I had like the extra sleeves in my deck box, so it was just easy fix.
Yep, I had the extra sleeves too.
Yeah, I've been deck checked a few times over the years, obviously, and I think only once I've had a deck check come back where they're like, "Yeah, replace these 3 sleeves." Like they just straight up told me to replace them, didn't ask any questions.
So if you ever go into an event, guys, and you make sure that you have extra sleeves with you in a deck box or in something else. That way you can quickly replace something if you see it messed up. You don't want to be that guy that has to go, "Oh man, I got to go to the vendor and buy a pack of sleeves." Like, that's the worst
$10
feeling
for
in the
a
world.
new pack of sleeves to secure your sanity and your, like potential for like not being called out for cheating when you're definitely not. Is
Definitely
worth it.
worth.
Like,
Plus, I don't want to touch your crusty sleeves. If you hand me a sleeve and it's got like some dirt on it, I'm not going to cut your deck.
or heaven
Like,
forbid, some ketchup.
No, I'm going to grab some hand sanitizer out and I'm going to like squeeze it all over your deck because you're cleaning your deck off. Like,
Danny, that's the day you get DQ'd for damaging other people's property.
let them.
So I just have one more, and we can finally move on. So this is kind of no one's really brought this up yet, so I might be the only one who does this. But if on like I'll let one slide, but the moment more than once you've forgotten if you've used an effect already in a turn, I start watching you.
That's a
Yeah,
fair one. That's a
it's
fair
like,
one.
did I draw with my leader skill? Like
Especially with like Figure of Majesty being the big one that seems to happen.
Oh yeah,
turn
did I
that
draw
boy
my
upside
figure?
down. Just
Yeah.
flip it 180 degrees. Can't forget then.
That's true. Or you could just not forget in general,
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
you
I
won't
mean,
forget if
the
it's
easiest
upside
thing is
down.
like put a dice on it. I feel like.
Yeah. What for my Nimba leader, whenever I'm playing Janemba, I have a card that I set to the left of it and I just flip it up whenever I've used my Janemba leader. It's like the Dragon Ball superhero card hit or something.
I keep a GX counter from Pokemon in my deck box.
Yeah, and if like my opponent's using like the Shenron leader, then I'll just keep a dice and I'll move it to their leader or like right beside just to remind myself that they've already used it.
I even have a burn damage counter from Pokemon in there for like playing against Vegeta Baby and stuff.
Well, sounds like we kind of went over everything that we think is a little suspect. We hit. Oh, sorry. Maybe we
I
did.
wanted to elaborate a little bit more on declumping because we touched on it, but we didn't really go over like one of the reasons like why you see it a lot in Dragon Ball. And one of the biggest things is the actual Dragon Ball cards in the wish decks. Like we see a lot of people declump their wish leaders, or not their wish leaders, but their Dragon Balls in their wish deck, and I think that's totally reasonable. Because it's so easy for that stack to get stuck together, and then the next game you just draw 5 Dragon Balls turn 1, and all of a sudden your opponent is looking at you like you're sketchy because you just drew 5 Dragon Balls turn 1, So it's almost kind of sketchy to not declump your Dragon Balls in your wish deck.
I've always just thrown the 7 in as soon as the game's over in different places in the deck without looking at the deck, and
That's
then
declumping.
Yeah, that is kind of declumping, but it's like it's a valid thing because oh man, I completely lost my train of thought with that. Sorry. someone else take the train.
So one reason why I think you would be kind of used to declumping coming from Yu-Gi-Oh, if I'm not mistaken, the game it's been at the point several times through its lifespan where the decks thin themselves so quickly and you go through so many copies of cards in sequence that you'll typically end up with the same cards stacked at top of each other in the discard pile. Is that not incorrect?
Yeah, it's pretty accurate. Like in Yu-Gi-Oh, like turn 1, you're always trying to go for like usually a turn 1 combo, which like usually revolves around the same card over and over and over again. So if you're not declumping, you're gonna get those next chiller every single time, and that's gonna happen. The same thing with Dragon Balls. Like you want to make sure those are spread out throughout the deck. So I would also declump those too.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
But then obviously,
only-
again, you want to give it like, oh, I remember where I was going a second ago. So yeah, so you want to give it like a good riffle shuffle afterwards to make sure you don't draw 5 Dragon Balls turn 1. The other thing too is though, like sometimes like opponents will like do the Yugi Moto shuffle that like actually just doesn't shuffle your deck in any way, and that's like kind of a problem too. Like you always want to make sure you're really randomizing your deck.
That's another thing. Japanese players get hit with a lot at like Pokemon Worlds, and I don't know about Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh, but I would assume if it's common in Pokemon, it happens there too. Where like the Japanese players don't really shuffle their decks like at all. They do the Yugi Moto thing a couple times and then present their deck and immediately get warning.
Am I the only one that does both? I'll usually riffle shuffle about 5 times, and then I'll do the Yugi Moto, and then I present my deck after I've done the Yugi Moto shuffle.
Bruh.
I'll shuffle
The
my own
finals.
deck. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Marcus.
I shuffle my own deck and then I cut my own deck, but I do the quote unquote Yugi Moto shuffle where you like pull the middle out, stack it on top, and do that a few times. But like,
Yeah, I do the same thing. I'm
thoroughly
very
riffle shuffle first.
Yeah. I don't do it without riffle shuffling, that's for sure.
The finals of Pokemon Worlds, the guy who got second literally got a double prize penalty, which essentially equated to a game loss because it ended the game. Game 1, because he Yugi Moto shuffled, presented his deck, the stream judge stopped the game and was like, double prize penalty, you've already been warned.
Because he had been doing it
Jeez.
all day or all weekend.
Yep.
So now I have a question that I saw pop up in one of the Facebook feeds. I think it was yesterday or the day before. Someone said that it infuriated them whenever they presented their deck to their opponent and their opponent riffle shuffled instead of just normal cutting. I know when I go to pick up the deck. Well, when I go to pick up the deck, I riffle shuffle and then I do a single cut. I know in Yu-Gi-Oh, I don't know how it is in Dragon Ball. In Yu-Gi-Oh, if you so if Marcus, you presented your deck to me and I cut it, you can cut it one final time and then present it to me to cut again. I don't know if that's a thing in Dragon Ball or not, though.
I don't believe it is. I've asked about it, and that's another way to kind of try and stop if you suspect your opponent of cheating you, or if you don't think they randomize the deck properly. The final cut is a way to like ensure that. But yeah, I don't think it's a rule in Dragon Ball that you can do that.
Yeah, but anyways, in Dragon Ball, I riffle shuffle and then I'll cut one final time. How do you guys feel about that? Do you feel like it's okay to riffle shuffle your opponent's deck, or
Yes.
anything other than bridge shuffling? People who do that cringe me.
200.
So let me go last because I want to address it in a very personal manner since I know the person you're talking.
Yeah, I do it. I say 200%. It's totally reasonable to shuffle somebody's deck and then cut it. If they shuffled randomly, then they're not cheating, then there's no reason for them to be upset about it.
Yeah, like especially at a high level event, I definitely think it's fair game to riffle shuffle your opponent's deck. And if they think you're being too rough with their cards, all they have to do is say something. Like I play against some younger kids at my locals, and like their hands are kind of small, so like they can't shuffle the deck properly. So like sometimes they bang it on the table to shuffle it. I'm like, dude, like just chill out a little bit. So those kind of things where I can understand, like if you think someone's being rough with your deck and it's expensive or whatever, but riffle shuffling, especially at a high end event, is definitely fair game.
And
When
I
you
think
scream at a little kid because they bang your victory strike.
Like
Yeah,
bend it in
try.
half.
So I think it's one of those things too where at a high level event, if you're concerned, like this is for the people that don't want their cards damaged, right? If you're concerned about the person that's shuffling and cutting your deck might damage it, ask the person that's like, let's say you want to shuffle your opponent's deck and they don't want you to because you might damage their deck. You can ask a judge to shuffle it for you.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Just ask for a judge shuffle.
Yeah, the judges are always there to help. So if you ever need anything, to make sure to call them.
Yeah, absolutely. Shane, what did you have to say about it?
So, the person who made that post is someone I actually played against at Atlanta Regionals last year. And Jordan's a super cool dude. Like, I had a great time playing him. There's not a doubt in my mind that he is 100%, like, not a cheater, like, at all. Dude is great. However,
Which Jordan?
if I did not, his name is Jordan Ray.
Okay.
However, if I did not know Jordan, my, like, biggest of red flags would alert at that kind of statement.
Yeah.
Like, I immediately think you're up to something if you don't want me shuffling your deck.
Yeah, I think it's more of a casual mind state too. Like, I don't know any player who plays at a regional that has not allowed me to riffle shuffle their deck. It just hasn't been a thing.
Yeah, and this is just coming from Yu-Gi-Oh, wherein Joey, you were talking about this earlier when your opponent looks at the bottom of your deck. I actually like having a leader for the simple fact that like it seems like that matters a lot less. Whereas in Yu-Gi-Oh, you don't know what you're playing against, and if someone like looks at the bottom of their deck, it can change the whole way they play. But whenever
Yeah, that blind turn 1 dweller.
yeah, when you're playing like Burning Abyss, like, oh, I know you had that. But when in this game, I feel whenever I riffle shuffle, I just look away from my opponent and their deck just to try and give them some peace of mind that I'm not trying to cheat them or anything like that. So if you're ever worried about something like that, you can always just ask your opponent to look away while they shuffle your deck. And something too. If you're like worried that maybe your leader's like the Gogeta ramp leader, but instead you're like playing mono yellow and got some crazy spice going on.
And I mean, I think that's reasonable. That should be a standard process in competitive play when you're shuffling your opponent's deck, anyways, to look away as you shuffle their deck.
Yep.
Yeah, I try to. I'm just kind of clumsy, and then I end up dropping their deck.
But is that all the things that we had to talk about for kind of like suspect play and declumping and taking life in order?
I think so. Did anybody else have anything else they wanted to input?
I think we're good.
I think that was actually it.
Okay.
All right, so next we're going to move on to some really powerful cards that we think are strong. Maybe not ban worthy, maybe they are ban worthy, you know, depending on your interaction with them and how you think about the game and perceive the meta state. I know the card that I would like to bring up for maybe not being banned, maybe being limited would be World Peace. I think that card facilitates a little too much nastiness in the game. Maybe I'm wrong though. So what do you guys think?
I can definitely see what you're saying. I agree that World Peace, as they release bigger, more powerful battle cards that don't have restrictions on how they have to be played, will be more and more relevant as the years come. If you look at some of the cards they've printed in the way they operate, like Foreseeing Hit, for example, says specifically when you play it from your hand, right? That little keyword or that little bit of phrase in the first sentence of its effect makes all the difference in how powerful that card is. Because you can imagine all these decks that can spam cards like World Peace being able to spam out Foreseeing Hits multiple times in a turn.
Yeah, I agree. And like I did a lot of discussions on my channel where when like Child's Wish was a big problem, I made mention that like World Peace is gonna have a similar issue because it's so generic. And that's been, I think, one of the biggest problems that the game has seen is when cards are just too generic. Like Mecha Frieza was too generic in the sense that you could use this effect for offensive and defensive extra cards, and we've had issues like the Storm Engine being too generic. So I think that was a problem that you could kind of foreshadow from Child's Wish. And when you could play a bomb deck like Shenron Ramp that just like plays all the good 7-drops in the game and just pukes them onto the board like turn 5-ish, it's pretty dumb in my opinion.
Man, I missed my Knockapot, agreed.
When you can play essentially 28 energy worth of battle cards on your 5th turn of the game, there's a problem.
Yeah, and I really like cards like Plea for Salvation. Like it's basically just a green World Peace, and I really like that because it's not too generic. Like it gives green, which is already like a lacking color, it gives green a way to like do powerful things like that, but it doesn't open it up to the entire card pool. And I think that's really good design. So I don't think World Peace is on the level that Child's Wish was at, but that would be just like my 2 cents. Like I think it is a pretty stupid card.
One thing they could have done instead of just banning Child's Wish or banning World Peace potentially is just make it to where you can only play 1 Desire a turn.
Yeah, that would be something.
Like,
I know
then
that
you
was
can't
something.
spam these cards multiple times in a turn. Like the ramp deck wouldn't have any reason to get up to 8 energy as fast as humanly possible to try to put 3 gigantic battle cards into play, because they can make 1 relevant play for free and then hard cast something, right? But then that's more energy restrictions, and they have to be careful what they charge, what they discard. But these are also cards that the way they're designed doesn't allow for a lot of counterplay, right? Because they've recently introduced cards like the whole cycle in set 7 where it says discard a card when you combo with it to do one of the 2 effects, right? So one is good against Janemba, the other one is good against decks like World Peace. But it's a card you have to draw. It costs a card from your hand rather than just being free. And it doesn't answer multiple cards. You know.
Yeah. I think that would be a good answer. Shane, it sounded like you were trying to bring something up, man.
I don't remember.
Sorry.
What were we? Hold on.
We were talking about world peace.
Oh, so if you actually go back to like when Step 5 came out, it kind of feels like they intended for the desires for the most part to be a once per turn kind of thing. We just kind of broke the game as players because we're American and that's what we do.
Yeah, I could see that.
Like even in Shenron Gogeta's like heyday before now, you cast one world piece a turn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think the once per turn thing is like the best solution, just because like people were offering that up when Child's Wish was a problem, and I actually did a video on my channel where I played a few games with the once per turn rule, and it didn't actually solve anything. Like Shenron, Super Shenron was still able to skip turn on turn 4 consistently, and it didn't really fix too much. So I just think the genericness of the cards is the main issue.
So it probably
agree.
fixes world peace a little bit more than it fixed Child's Wish, because Child's Wish is more restrictive than world peace is. But I can see what you mean. I mean, yeah, if you did the testing for it, then it does make sense.
Yeah. I agree with what Joey was saying with it. I feel like it's more healthy if there is just like a plea for salvation for every color that does something a little different. Because I believe a plea pops something as well. Is that correct?
Pops a 2-drop or lower.
Yeah.
And
So
it only revives green battle cards.
yeah. So like blue had one and like red had one. And red kind of got the familial bonds thing. I think we'd be in probably a little bit healthier of a state, but then we have other decks that might take over, but probably wouldn't be as strong as that ramp deck. That ramp deck's a little insane and a little too unhealthy in my opinion.
I kind of agree. Like Gogeta 7 with Shenron was like obviously kind of broken, but it wasn't like as absurd as what we're seeing now. So like if all you can do is Gogeta 7 me instead of Gogeta 7 and Kaioken and Victory Strike all in the same turn, then yeah, I'm okay with that.
The one thing I will say, kind of like as devil's advocate, though, like I saw a post on Facebook, I think it was yesterday, the day before, where somebody was calling for, I think it was either World Peace. Yeah, for objection. That was it. They were calling for an objection ban, and they were saying like, this leads to all the big boss monsters getting played too early, this and that. But there are pretty good ramp answers, and Dende is kind of too costly for its effect, but forced ejection mass Saiyan is like, I live and die by that card. Like that card is so good against ramp, especially if your opponent's going to be like 2 energy up on you, no matter if they go first or second. That card's always live, and you could loop it to resolve it twice in one turn if you play 2 of them by like playing one, awakening, overwhelming the other one. So there are decent answers for it, which is why I don't think it's like the scale of like Super Shenron, but it is still an annoying card for sure.
I definitely see what you mean. When you look at, like the funny thing is, the person that suggested objection be banned is actually one of our teammates, Brian Reed.
Right. Yes, I do
And,
remember that now. Yep.
So I'm not of the opinion that banning around a problem will solve a problem,
I agree.
because we will eventually get to a point to where it's a problem once again. World peace will always be on the cusp of breaking the game, as if they ever design a card that is generically powerful without any restrictions, and that's kind of what Kaioken is.
Now, Marcus. Just because we ban world peace won't make it easier for you to top.
I don't know what you're talking about. The last 2 times I topped, I was playing Storm, and then like, all the stuff I play they ban.
I'm just trolling Anthony Hernandez.
Oh God. But no, I agree. Force objection max Saiyan is pretty good. And the fact that you don't have to like overwhelm with it to get its ability is pretty cool.
Or you could play it off the anniversary box mass Saiyan, and it just stays in play.
Yeah. So I know that we kind of just hit on Kaioken, we hit on Gogeta 7, and we hit on the fact that a world peace allows you to play those cards for free, or for multiple cards in a turn for free. Is there any other powerful cards that we can think of that, maybe not banned, but maybe hit or something like that, needs to be looked at definitely, that you guys can think of?
Yeah, Shane brought up Babidi, which I think is a pretty relevant one. It's definitely an oddly designed card.
Yeah, but is it that bad though?
I don't think a card needs to like completely dominate a format in order to get banned.
That's fair. But if we look at what deck it's played in right now, it's played in what? Mostly that Frieza Prison Frieza deck, sorry.
Right. And I don't
And
think we're
that
necessarily talking about right now. I think we're talking about in general.
Like if you already had to errata the card, you probably should just ban.
possibly. But I don't know that it deserves. I do think it can promote unhealthiness on bringing out double Kaioken, but the card feels not too bad. Sorry, what were you saying, Joey?
I was gonna say I think the biggest problem is Kaioken there because in my opinion, like Bobity's only as good as the bombs it can bring out. And Kaioken is just like a really stupid card. And I don't think it's like that busted because we have, turn forward conditions that can get underneath Kaioken, but it's still like a really dumb card that should not have deflect. Probably shouldn't look at your hand like as many times per turn as you want. It probably should have been like a once per turn thing. See, it honestly seems like secret rare level power, but again, there are answers to it. We have Mutaito, we have like the Chomp of the Trickster, things like that.
Literally better than most of the secret rare.
Think of it.
Yeah, the
if they had
card's absolutely insane.
If they had just restricted it to green sand leaders only, it'd be unplayable. Excluding Clash Goku.
But then you'd have a reason to play Raditz or something.
Clash Goku.
It just kind of makes me wonder what Bandai is going to come out with next that's going to be strong, because Kaioken's a little nutty.
Next set will just be complete and utter trash.
It is kind of crazy. I think Shane is definitely on the mark there when he said Kaioken is, on average, more powerful than most of the secret rares in the game.
Yeah, there's like that Hyper Evolution secret rare or whatever. Isn't that card trash? Like, has that card even seen competitive play lately?
It's only good in one single deck strategy.
It's that triple flash, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
it's only playable because of triple flash.
and we've seen like how many of that top?
Can you even play it in that deck?
Hyper Evolution doesn't have any restrictions other than what it has to evolve on.
Yeah, I thought it had to be a 6-drop.
I think it's just 6-drop or higher, isn't it?
Well, isn't triple flash only a 5-drop?
It goes on top of the 5-drop and you evolve on top of the triple flash.
I don't know. Anyway,
Shane, you don't read cards, bro. How are you gonna comment? You don't even read cards.
Yeah, it's a cost of 6 or more. So you play triple flash, which is a 7-drop, and this can evolve on top of triple flash.
Yeah, but like cards like that are just like garbage. So it's Bandai, just take a chill pill. Take a chill pill.
I think the biggest one in everybody's mind, on average, is one that Joey was going to bring up. I think, right, with Gogeta Hero Revived.
Yeah, that card is the bane of my existence. It just does way too much. All the keyword skills, and again, it hasn't even like taken the format by storm. It's never been tier 0. It's never been this, never been that. But it's just such a stupid card from like a design perspective. And I guess like Bandai wants the game to be over by a certain time frame, which makes sense again. But still, it never feels good from my opinion, from either player's perspective. Like I've asked Shenron Gogeta players, like, do you enjoy this deck or do you play it just because it wins games? And they play it because it wins games. Even if you like Mutaito the Gogeta, you get set back so far that it's hard to make a comeback. It's just such a dumb card that I think should have been banned from day one.
Like one of the worst feelings in the world is that new ramp deck lets you play Gogeta 7 and then you Kaioken. And it's like, congratulations, you still lose the game.
So you can have
yeah, it's pretty dumb.
Or you just take them to 3, hit them with Gogeta, they take 3, and then you Gogeta again. Like, haha, congratulations.
Someone did bring up an interesting point though on Facebook the other day where they proposed the banning of the Shenron leader itself, which I think is actually also a good fix because, to be honest, like Gogeta 7 outside of Shenron is infinitely less scary. Like if all you have to do is play around 1 triple strike, that is a lot less scary. I just stay at 4 life, defend my life there. If they want to triple strike me, I'll just go to 1 life and then we'll see what happens from there. But the fact that you can pair it with the crit, pair it with the triple attack, Shenron leader is probably a bit too generic for what it does.
Just
The only problem is banning the Shenron leader doesn't answer the current iteration of the deck, because then you just play Purunga.
Yeah, well, the triple attack is what kind of does it for that
I don't
final
think you
attack.
need the triple attack if you just go G to 7 into KO Ken, take their whole hand away, and then bring in Victory Strike.
Yeah, that is pretty dumb. So Purunga, Purunga would have less flexibility, but you would be able to be a bit more spammy. And if you have the crazy boss monsters to be spammy, then you're just gonna do crazy things. But
That's
yeah,
possible.
I agree.
Every other time, I would 100% agree. I just think this deck's AIDS.
one of the things I think about the Shenron leader specifically is they just errata it instead of triple attack. Just make it triple strike. Like
Yeah,
they did it with freaking with the Super Shenron leader. They took it from 20 cards to 20 battle cards.
Yeah.
30. It's
I
30.
really
isn't
wish
it?
they
it
would
30?
just ban the card.
I thought they made it 30.
I'm pretty sure they just said 20
It's
battle
30.
cards, right?
No, it's 30.
Oh wow, yeah, okay. It's just miserable to play now, you know.
I'm also going to take advantage of this moment to point out y'all were wrong, and you cannot secret rare on top of Triple Flash.
Why not?
Because Triple Flash says you can't use the EX Evolve for the rest of the turn.
You
Yeah,
do
you
it
just
the
do it the
next
next
turn, you big dummy.
Bro, you don't get a next turn.
You
What?
totally can.
No, you just die.
Shane, stop.
Oh.
And I mean, we talked about Kaioken a little bit. The fact that it can take multiple cards in a single turn, it's kind of obnoxious.
While getting stronger.
Right.
So what's crazy is we're talking about this really powerful deck, and then Jordan Markle 2-0'd it in the finals.
Well,
It's like
That's
he
because Toe was absurd.
So how do we feel about Toa? Do we feel like that deck is what do we think about that, guys?
so Big Boy Mira is it's a good card.
Card is really good, but I think self-mill in this game still is Toa is obviously super strong. It's been doing really well, but it has had a ton of representation, so that definitely probably adds to why it does so well. But self-mill in this game, at least from my testing, is still pretty bad because I've had so many instances where I can only resolve one mirror a game, and that's not enough to get you there because you just mill all your other mirrors or you draw your other mirrors, and then your opponent deals with your regulators, so you can't get them back into the deck. It just, for me, it takes a well-oiled engine for Toa to run properly, and I feel like there's so many decks in the game that can interrupt that engine.
Yeah.
Unless you're super lucky and your mirrors are always in your deck, but
It was a huge boost to overall decks as a whole with the introduction of Vegeta Time Regulator.
definitely.
So that does help a lot, but you can't account for every bit of variance. You know, you could just, every mill could be 7-drop Mira plus Time Regulator every single time.
Yeah,
Well,
or super combo.
And part of the problem is, so with the introduction of all the counterplays, it kind of checked almost everything in the game, except Toa.
Yeah, I mean that 5-drop mirror having deflect is pretty insane, but at least our overall one doesn't have deflect, so there's that going for it.
Right.
That's true. I think the deck is good, but I don't think it's overpowered or anything like that.
I agree. Like you can kind of bully them the first 3 turns before they awaken.
Oh yeah.
Because they don't have the God Strike effect, obviously. I think their big strategy against Toa is just go as wide as possible, and they have cards like Supreme Kai, Time Disruptor to stop that. But if you have Chain Attack aggro or Arrival aggro, you can sneak in some early damage pretty good.
Oh, for sure. I know plenty about that.
I think something you have to ask, and with Toa specifically, is are we talking about taking the Yu-Gi-Oh approach where you kind of just hit a whole format to warp it, or are we taking the Pokemon approach where you literally only hit absolutely broken cards?
I mean, they kind of just did that in Modern too for Magic.
I think hitting just absolutely broken cards is probably a good thing, but I did enjoy looking forward to a ban list and seeing how a format would shape up.
And in this
No,
game,
I like
it
the ban
doesn't
list
hurt
they're
your
doing
wallets
now.
that much.
I hated the Yu-Gi-Oh approach of using a ban list as basically rotation. I hated that. I felt like I was taken for a ride. They didn't care about the consumers at all, which really made me. That was one of the big reasons I quit the game. I just felt like Konami could not care less about the players, and I really appreciate how Bandai is very vocal with the community. I appreciate their approach to the ban list, like giving us reasons, explanations as to why things are banned. They might not get it right all the time. They might miss a few things, but I really, really like their approach.
Yeah, I don't care what anybody says. Bandai is great.
They're trying, and that's the thing.
And they're
open
trying
with
very
us.
hard.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't get this because, like, you know, some people don't go to events and don't meet these people, but like the dev team for Dragon Ball Super, it's a small group of, like, you know, younger people. They're in their like 20s and 30s that are just making this game, and like they relate to us a lot, and they really do care about the game. Like, it's not like when you think of Bandai for Dragon Ball Super, you shouldn't think like big corporation, like greedy, money hungry people. Like, they're a business at the end of the day. They need to make their profits, but people that make our game are really cool people.
Yeah, I agree. I was talking to Shane and Marcus a while ago, and I was telling them, you know, I've been to a lot of YCSs. I went to nationals, and like other than nationals and the voice actors, I never saw the devs. I went to the Orlando celebrations, and they like brought the whole dev team out. They showed this awesome video. It was really hype. And that's the kind of stuff I think. Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff I think shows you that the company cares. And
Or like
while
at Nationals, how they had like a few of the devs playing in the Gunslinger event, so you got a chance to
That
play
was
against
super
some of
cool.
them.
yeah. Now, if they just get the voice actors of like Goku and Vegeta to like come to nationals, that'd be pretty awesome.
That'd be sick. But yeah, that was the exact image I got of Konami. And if you never played Yu-Gi-Oh or don't really play video games, like, you probably never heard of Konami, but Bandai could like debatably be like a household name. Like, Bandai's a really, really big company, but I don't get that vibe with them for Dragon Ball, but I got the you know, big company, greedy kind of vibe from Konami. And that was one of my biggest turnoffs from the game.
100% get it from Wizards of the Coast.
Oh yeah.
Like, what do you get for winning a YCS other than the prize card? You get like a Nintendo Switch. Like,
I did a video on this a few weeks, like 2 weeks ago. Yeah, you get like a prize card, which only goes out to top 4. You get like a console, which, you know, is pretty cool, admittedly. Then you get like a playmat, deck boxes, like nothing else really. And especially for regionals, like you top 8 a regional,
God.
all you get is a deck box and a playmat. Like, it's so not worth it.
Bandai's learning a lot though, because like, man, they're really starting to realize this season that they can literally just print money when it comes to pricing.
Yeah, like people love celebrations where you got boxes. Like, it's super cheap for Bandai to produce, and people love it. So you just keep doing that.
You know what?
Like, when I topped Ohio, I sold the giant Gogeta leader for $45. I sold the stamp foo for 110. And like, while that's not a lot, like, it still made me plus on the week.
When
And it
I
cost
topped
them, like,
Ohio,
literally
I
nothing.
got 2 packs.
Well, that's because you played in the Pride event.
When I topped the Argent Saga event the following day, I got a metal card.
But something that I think would be cool is like maybe like the top half, instead of getting like playmats or whatever. A lot of people like to put pins on their backpacks or whatever, and I think giving out like a cool metal pin for like top 50% would be pretty cool too.
I would be a fan of less playmats.
There's just like so much stuff they could do, and it's pretty cool. They have the feedback, so it's good to see. So all you guys out there saying that Dragon Ball has terrible pricing, go to Yu-Gi-Oh! Regionals and then come talk to me. Like
But
Joey said in his
the
video.
crazy thing to me is that people in Yu-Gi-Oh! Don't complain about it. That's the craziest thing. They kind of just are used to it, I guess, so they just take it. I don't know why.
Well, yeah, they're all stealing each other's cards to turn a profit. Who needs to win a tournament?
Oh my god.
All right, there's not that many cheaters in Yu-Gi-Oh! There's just much
I didn't say
more
anything about
players.
cheating. I said stealing.
You cheating them out of their backpack?
All right.
Sorry.
But so was there any more unhealthy cards that we were talking about?
I don't think there was anything in my mind, at least, that I would consider unhealthy.
Okay.
Like maybe
So when it comes to
Victory Strike,
Toa-
but like that's easily fixed.
Like, when it comes to Toa, I'm not saying the big mirror should get hit to 1. I just wouldn't be surprised if it happened.
That's fair, I suppose.
And then it's in your life every single game.
Oh, if that card went to 1, Toa would be unplayable, I think.
Yeah. Agreed.
1.5.
And like, I don't think it'll happen anytime soon, but that's like something that'll happen. Like, if Toa remains tier 1 for like 4 sets, they're gonna be like, all right, we gotta check this somehow.
Yeah. So I just have a few questions for you, Joey, since you're the guest for tonight. Are you going to be going to the Orlando regionals?
Unfortunately, I will not be going to Orlando. School's starting next week, so I'm going to be on like crackdown mode.
Yeah, I got you. So then I guess I can ask you this without having to worry about giving away any of your spice. If you were going, what 2 to 3 decks would you look at taking that if you were looking to top the event to get your national invite?
Personally, I like just me from all my testing and playing, I would take Vegeta Baby. I don't think that's like a very on the radar deck right now. And I really think that this game rewards the surprise factor a lot. We just see all the time, like, oh, this crazy deck top, that crazy deck topped. Like, it's only like one spot here and there, but it got these people to top cut, right? You know, people don't know how to play around it. People don't know what the deck does. That can go a long way. Vegeta Baby too, like red just feels very well positioned in my opinion. Like having Denial of Hope, it hits most things in the game. Then you have like chain attack, so you can sideboard into Zeno if you really wanted to. And the baby chain feels very very powerful this format. Like you can make a 3 energy baby play, get to your 6 drop, then awaken and just like pass. So you have like this baby that is basically saying the first thing your opponent plays in the turn is dead, and then you have Denial of Hope waiting to kill the next thing they play. So it feels really strong.
I like how good it is against Mira or Toa because like they could aim to play like a 3-drop Mira, you denial it, and then they try to play the 5-drop, and then it gets popped by the baby.
Yeah, exactly. It solves that problem of like the Mira having deflect, right? Because when you Denial of Hope the card, it hasn't been played yet, so your baby doesn't proc yet. So
Yep.
Now I regret asking you because I wanted to make Vegeta Baby for Orlando.
I would take it, man. I feel like people don't respect the deck. I would definitely take it there.
So
I just want to run Vegeta the Cruel.
That's 2 weeks in a row now. The guest has said to play Vegeta Baby.
Yeah.
Maybe
Who
it's a
else
sign.
said to play Vegeta Baby? Curious.
Russell.
Oh yeah, I didn't think you'd be on the deck. That's cool. Yeah, that's really cool.
He's
Well, I
on the
don't-
deck because it seems like the only deck he's willing to admit has a good matchup into Toa.
Like he sideboarded cards just for Vegeta Baby and never played against it.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Yeah, but I think the deck is really strong. The thing is, it lacks consistency. That's a big problem. Like sometimes you won't hit your baby chain like until like turn 4, turn 5, which can hurt. But you have some of the best defensive cards in the game between After Image, Denial of Hope, Revenge of Death Ball. Like you should survive through most things.
So I assume with that statement that you're a fan of mono red.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of. I haven't found a red green Vegeta Baby list that I like yet. I'm more of a fan of the mono red because if you play red green, you can't really play the baby engine in my opinion. You got to be playing like just red green good stuff deck. So
Vegeta the Cruel's so good though.
And
that
like
card is insanely good. That card is insanely good, but I haven't found a red green list that I like personally.
maybe you smoke screen into the green.
It'd be tough though. Like you probably have to dedicate your entire side deck to it. Like maybe
oh yeah.
You could just like take everything out that isn't the 4-drop because the 4-drop's just kind of generically good, or no, it'd be 4, 8, 12. Yeah, you could take out the whole chain for 15 cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds not good though.
So what's another deck you would also be looking to take? So Vegeta Baby is probably a primary, but if you didn't have access to that, what's the other deck you would take?
Well, yeah, so Vegeta Baby would be like my off the wall pick, I guess. But for consistency, I mean, Toa is like an obvious one. It's getting so much rep, but like that mirror match is kind of toxic, so maybe you wouldn't want to take that. There's a lot of really good rogue decks right now. Like if you wanted to just like smash Toa's face in, you could take like Scuffle Time because Toa obviously doesn't have like a Borgos type of card, and they have like Supreme Kai Time Regulator Time Disruptor, but that means they can't tap out turn 2 for Regulator, so it means there's a lot of different things that can go on there, and no one's really playing the Borgoses or the Raditses right now, so that's like a random pick you could take if you want to be aggressive.
Marcus, do not get any ideas.
It could work out well. Again, like that's another deck that people are just not going to know what it does and not know how to play against it. And honestly, that deck can put on like storm levels of aggro. Like, and you could like side into like the UI package.
Oh, I'm aware.
All these random things like kind of run through my brains. Like I have these like off the top of my head, but yeah. I mean, besides that, like U6 is another obvious one, but that deck loses pretty hard to red in my opinion. And then you have like Toa playing like unexpected turn, things like that. Yeah, so I mean, those would probably be my 2 picks. Would probably be like either Toa, maybe like something off the walls like Scuffle Time, and then like Vegeta Baby.
I actually had a question about an unexpected turn. You might be able to answer for me. If
Yeah, sure.
your opponent has 3 U6 battle cards in play, and they combo with a Caulifla, and the Caulifla auto triggers, can you unexpected turn that?
I believe so because they already met the condition of already having three
And
battle
they're trying
cards
to
on board.
play another one, regardless if it's going on top of one they already have.
Yeah, so I believe it would trigger. Yeah.
Neat. I was just curious.
So, Joey, I have a question that I try to ask as many people as possible that we have on here, just as something, a little fun fact towards the end of the show. What is one thing, if you could give a new player some advice on how to get good, what would that piece of advice be?
How to get good? Well,
Yeah,
besides the obvious like self plug to the Patreon, YouTube channel, and everything, just like open up your mind to other players. I'm actually probably gonna do an article about this for Shenron's Lair soon, where like one of the biggest problems in card games, from my experience playing Yu-Gi-Oh and Dragon Ball, is just ego. Like I've had a lot of people come up to me and like friends at my locals and stuff that just come up to me and like help me out. Like I want to get good, this and that, but they don't listen to advice. I give them a tip, like I'm watching them play and I'm like, oh, I don't agree with that play you just made. And they're arguing with me like, well, no, but this, and this, and this. Like, I understand if you want to debate a point with me, if you want to debate a play line, that's very good actually. But if you're going to argue with me and just not be open to any criticism, any advice from anyone, that you're not going to grow as a player. So you need to be open to everyone in the game. Like if you're going to go seek help, ask for it and be open to it, or just like watch that guy or locals that wins every tournament and just like see what he does, ask him to play a game with you, and just make sure you're open to advice, and even be open to advice to the worst player in the room, because being able to decipher what is good advice and what's bad advice is also important. That's kind of something people won't think about a lot, but I do think that's pretty important.
Yeah. Well, definitely appreciate that piece of advice. Did anyone have anything else before we wrap this podcast up?
I don't think so.
Nope.
Well, Joey, it's been a pleasure having you, man. Thank you for coming out tonight and spending some time with us, talking about some cool ideas and some powerful cards and just some ways to identify, maybe your opponent's being a little suspect, or maybe, if you do those things and you don't mean to, just some things that your opponents might be watching. So,
thank you guys so much for having me. Let's do it again soon.
Yeah, definitely go and check out Joey Paladino's Crossworld TCG YouTube channel. It's got some pretty awesome information there. It's definitely one of the resources that I used when I first got into the game to get a little bit better. So with that being said, the next time you're at your locals, remember to stay elite.